Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. Toss a coin to your Witcher. This is going to be my new Witcher Netflix Season 2 video and a big breakdown of the Jason Momoa announcement. So you may have seen some of the news the past couple of days. I'll explain what's going on. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's actually a bunch of Witcher projects that Netflix is doing in addition to Season 2. There's also an anime movie called Nightmare of the Wolf and a prequel called Witcher Blood Origin, which is going to detail the origin of the Witcher Order. So we'll just start with the big stuff first, the Jason Momoa news. You may have seen the past couple weeks that Netflix is trying to cast Jason Momoa in The Witcher Netflix. Jason Momoa seemingly confirmed this by posting this fan art to his Instagram story saying, "Hey brother," talking to Henry Cavill's Geralt, obviously. So naturally everybody freaked out because it'd be awesome to see them reunite inside the world of The Witcher Netflix. Because they're both big DC characters in the DC movies. In Justice League, we're going to see them together again in the Justice League Snyder Cut with a whole bunch of new footage next year too. But here's the thing, they're not casting him for The Witcher Netflix Season 2. They're in production for that right now. I'll explain what's going on with Witcher Season 2 in a second. But Netflix is actually trying to cast him for the Witcher Blood Origin series. So number 4, if you don't know what that is, that's basically the origin of the Witchers. So Jason Momoa would basically be the very first Witcher. So far, the Witcher story in the novels or the games hasn't really explained who that first Witcher was. We know a little bit about the origin of the Witchers and the people who first created the Witcher mutations. I'm going to read the description that the showrunner gave for this series, so it'll give you a pretty good idea for what it's going to cover in terms of history. He says, "A question has been burning in my mind ever since I first read the Witcher books. What was the elven world like before the cataclysmic arrival of humans? I've always been fascinated by the rise and fall of civilizations, how science, discovery, and culture flourish right before that fall, how swaths of knowledge are lost forever in such a short time, often compounded by the colonization and rewriting of history, leaving only fragments of a civilization's true story behind. The Witcher Blood Origin will tell the tale of the elven civilization before its fall and most importantly reveal the forgotten history of the very first Witcher." So that's why it seems like it's going to be so easy for them to land Jason Momoa. And Jason Momoa himself has done a bunch of other Netflix series, so it's not unusual for him to do mini-series or big series like this with streamers. The actual Witcher Blood Origin series is only supposed to be 6 episodes long, and basically Netflix's strategy for the Witcher Netflix franchise in general, not just the main series with Henry Cavill, is that it sounds like they're actually going to be doing obviously multiple seasons to cover all the Witcher books and novels, but between those seasons they're going to fill the gaps with miniseries, with other stories, other Witcher stories. Like that's where the anime movie, The Nightmare of the Wolf, comes in. That's going to deal a lot with the origins of Vesemir when he was much younger before Geralt came along and he had to deal with this really horrific adventure. Number 3, here's the thing though, we actually know a lot about that period that they're dealing with. It was about 1,000 years before the events on the main show right now. If you're not familiar with the history of the world in The Witcher, humans actually did not come from the planet that The Witcher series takes place on or the games. They actually came from somewhere else in the multiverse, a planet called, quote-unquote, Earth. So the planet that we're on in all the games and all the books is not Earth. The way the author talks about the books, he said that originally he had actually intended for the world that the series takes place on to be a version of prehistoric Earth, but then he changed his mind. Because if you're not familiar with the lore of The Witcher, there is time travel, there is travel through the multiverse, so it is kind of a science fiction and fantasy story together. So the cataclysmic event that they talk about that brought humans from Earth to the world of The Witcher is actually called the Conjunction of the Spheres, which is something that the show is actually building up towards again. It's this cyclical event. The key to all this is Ciri's character, but they actually did this short movie inside the games where they explained this whole history, so I'll play the clip from that here.
Time passed. Our world intertwined with another through an upheaval scholars call the Conjunction of the Spheres. The gods allowed unholy forces to slip into our domain. The offspring of that cataclysm was the nefarious force called magic. Yet we did not banish it, instead studying the vile arcane for our own power and wealth. And the monsters at our door, the unholy relics of this conjunction, the trolls, the corpse eaters, the werewolves, did we raise our swords against them? Or have we laid this burden on others? On so-called witches. Stray children taught the ways of foul sorcery, their bodies mutated through blasphemous ritual. Sent to fight monsters, though they could not distinguish good from evil. The flicker of humanity, long extinguished within them. Yes, their numbers have dwindled through the years, but a few still roam our lands.
The way they talk about the conjunction of the spheres during that clip is actually basically when planets come into alignment and it allows other people from places in the multiverse, other worlds, to cross over into the world of The Witcher. And within the context of this clip, they're just talking about monsters coming to the world of The Witcher. That's where monsters came from, the multiverse. They used the conjunction of the spheres to cross over, but that's also what humans did a long time ago. So if you watch The Witcher Netflix Season 1, then you basically seen what's happened to elves in present day. They're slowly going extinct. Even though there's this ancient race, a lot of their history's been lost through all these wars with humanity. They've been kicked off their lands, there's the threat of another war coming again in present day. Most of this we get through Geralt's perspective because we're following him around through the story. Number 2, the origin of the Witchers in the Witcher schools is talked about a little bit piecemeal throughout the different books, so you don't get all that history in one big jump right at the beginning. Like a lot of big world-building fantasy authors, you don't get all the story right away. We learn a little bit about the mages that created the Witcher mutations during Season of Storms. According to scholars, it was the legendary mages Cosimo and his apprentice who actually created the mutations. We don't know a lot about the person that they tested those on, but based on what Netflix is planning here, it sounds like it would be that very first Witcher played by Jason Momoa. We don't know what his name is, it's not recorded in history. And even cooler, his apprentice after this went on to become even more famous in his own right, creating a lot of the most powerful spells that Triss and Yennefer wind up using in the books and the games in present day. There were only a couple scenes during The Witcher Netflix Season 1 where you actually see Henry Cavill taking his Witcher potions. We got a little bit of it during the trailer, but I'm sure there's a bunch of footage that wound up on the cutting room floor. They actually just dropped a big behind-the-scenes Witcher Netflix Season 1 series as well. It's sort of like extra bonus material about the making of the Witcher Netflix episodes. But the really cool thing about all this, the conjunction of the spheres, travel between the multiverse, obviously the origin of the Witcher series, the origin of humans in the world of The Witcher, is that Ciri is actually the key to sort of connecting all these different series in all these different time periods. They only hinted at Ciri and her Elder Blood powers a little bit during Season 1, but she is god-tier powerful. She can open portals to anywhere she wants to go to in time and space. It's almost like a Doctor Who situation. No joke, within the world of the story in the novels, she has actually traveled to different time periods and been to that original Earth in the multiverse that humans came from. The way the author talks about the original planet, he just talks about how humans basically trashed Earth so bad that they were forced to cross over into the world of The Witcher, and that was their last-ditch attempt to find some place to live that wasn't destroyed. So a big theme of the Witcher series that kind of plays out a little bit in the background during Season 1 is that sometimes humans are just as bad, if not worse, than the monsters that they hire Geralt to fight. So oftentimes, Geralt finds himself protecting the monsters more than the humans. This whole backstory that they're going to tell with the Witcher Blood Origin series about humans coming and basically taking over all the elves and the elder race's lands is going to do a much better job of showcasing that. Like, look how terrible these people are. I don't know if we're going to see Ciri jumping around in time and space during Season 2 or anything like that. It's a little early for something like that. She doesn't even understand her powers. Even in the books, when she gets older and she accidentally starts jumping around, portaling through time and space, she doesn't totally understand how she does it. What's happening right now, though, is that during Season 2, at least at the beginning of the season, we'll see them go back to Kaer Morhen because that's where they're headed now that he's found Ciri. They'll begin training her as a Witcher, even though she doesn't take the mutations like Geralt does. The reason why she doesn't take the mutations is because there's no one left alive that they know of that can create the potions that they need to undergo the Witcher mutations in the Trial of the Grasses. So even if someone wanted to become a Witcher, they wouldn't be able to fully become a true Witcher the way that Geralt and Vesemir are Witchers. That's okay though, Ciri is so powerful, she does not need to undergo the Witcher mutations in order to be an effective Witcher. Right now, just based on their production timeline, I don't know if they're going to be able to get episodes out by the end of next year. It'll be a race to the finish if they do, so it's always possible we get episodes by next December in 2021. Everyone, let me know in the comments, what do you think about Jason Momoa coming to the world of The Witcher? It just sounds really cool. It seems like he'd actually fit in really well. Speaking of Jason Momoa and Henry Cavill crossover, there's another big DC fandom event that's coming up with a bunch of new Justice League Snyder Cut, Batman, DC movie stuff. You can click here for the trailer for that, learn what's going on, and click here for all my Witcher Netflix episode videos. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone toss a coin to your Witcher. I'll see you guys tonight.